Which Silver Mountain Water clone is actually the best? Now, as always, I just want to preface this by saying, this is coming from somebody who not only used to work in niche fragrance and used to work for the House of Creed specifically, but even more importantly, it's coming from somebody who isn't trying to sell you something. Of course, all the fragrances that I usually talk about, I'll go ahead and list them at the very bottom of my description on affiliate Amazon links. But I'm not trying to push any products. I'm not trying to, win you to my way of thinking to buy anything or anything. It's coming from somebody who almost 6 years ago now fell in love with this niche of fragrance and went down the rabbit hole on YouTube and everything else, and I always say had to go through the trials of listening to people who weren't being so honest and were just trying to make a little money off of their audience, sadly. But then also found those people that were being honest and really gave their genuine opinion and were trying to put it a bit more objectively as well, which was, beyond a blessing, seriously. And after these 6 years now of having experience in this niche, I can sort of give that to you and convey it to you. So also, for those of you returning, you'll realize that I'm holding a mic now. Sadly, after recording the last video, I was like, oh my gosh, my built-in mic is broken and the audio was trash. So once again, I apologize for that. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was a little bummed about it. I was like, man, I really like speaking with my hands when I talk, and this is gonna kind of throw me off. But I was like, you know what? I got to think about this positively, the audio quality is probably going to sound fantastic compared to my last videos, and let's just try something new, and have a good attitude about it. So that's what we're going to do this video right now. So like I said, we are seeing what clones and dupes and Silver Mountain Water inspired fragrances are going to amount to Silver Mountain Water. Now, I'm going to bring these up in sort of the least similar to Silver Mountain Water to the most similar to Silver Mountain Water. Now, one fragrance I want to bring up before we go any further is one that's sort of not going to fit into this, but had been brought up a lot because a lot of you guys, I'm very grateful for the support, and you guys had mentioned that you would want to see this video in the past, and I wanted to do it as well, but I sort of didn't know where I was going with it, but now I do. But one thing that a lot of people were recommending, and I saw online a lot, was that people were recommending Jomashop's Cosmopolitan Mephisto. Now, Mephisto is fantastic. I picked it up for myself after you guys recommended it so much, and it is a beautiful fragrance. Seriously, I wouldn't say it's Silver Mountain Water inspired. It's obviously not a clone or a dupe coming from Jomashop, right? But are they comparable? Sort of. I would say that this is more in that Silver Mountain Water genre and not similar to Silver Mountain Water. They share their similarities, but this one's just like a lot more fruity and a little powdery, and it has those florals as well, but it doesn't make it too feminine leaning or anything. It's still very unisex, and it smells very premium and luxurious, and it's very nice. It smells like a Jomashop fragrance. It really does. It smells very niche and premium. I think it could be a good Silver Mountain Water replacement for yourself if you would like that. Only if you like the fragrance, obviously, but mostly in that longevity and projection department, because it does have a notable superiority on terms of the longevity and projection compared to Silver Mountain Water from my experience. Now, out of those dupes and clones, the first one I'm going to be starting off with is one that I saw quite often when comparing to Silver Mountain Water, and it is Offnon's Supremacy in Heaven. Like I said, I'm ordering this from worst to best. This one was a huge letdown for me. It is the first one that I got for comparison to Silver Mountain Water, and it really disappointed me, man. I think, it's really bad. It has, every time I would spray a blotter card or like a fragrance strip to smell it, I would have to throw it away very soon after, because it smells like produce gone bad. It really does smell like spoiled, like rotten citruses, man. That's what it smells like to me. And yeah, it just has that like twang that just really just throws me off. It smells very synthetic and very designer. It has this like synthetic designeriness that reminds me of some fragrances that I used to wear in high school. So it's a little bit nostalgic to me, but the rotten citrus sort of vibes on top just really ruined it for me. And I honestly don't even want to talk about it anymore because it makes me that upset. So this one is at the very bottom of the totem pole, in my opinion. Maybe they reformulated because I've heard good things about it from some other people. But for me, right now, it's really bad. I will say though, the longevity and projection of this one is very good. But at what cost, you know? Now the next one, this is going to be a little controversial, but hear me out. The next one that is barely better than Afnan's Supremacy in Heaven is going to be Club de Nuit Sillage from Arm Off. Now, I think it may have been reformulated. I couldn't find anything reputable online when trying to research that, but I noticed the bottle is different. And I was like, is this reformulated or what changed? Because I could have sworn the sort of pattern on here was supposed to like stretch all the way across the bottle, and that it had like hints of like this blue, like this cyan or like, yeah, this lighter blue on it. But this is the first time I've ever smelled it. And it's a huge letdown. It doesn't smell, it doesn't smell anything like Silver Mountain water to me. It's very metallically inky, like that inkiness, sort of ozonic sort of feature to it is the only thing that replicates Silver Mountain water. But the scent in general, like I said, I don't know if it's been reformulated because I've heard so many good things about it in general online, and then also from some of you guys who are recommending it. But have they reformulated? Because it does not smell like anything like what people have hyped it up to be, sadly. I truly think they really overdid it on the inkiness, and it's this very different metallic sort of inkiness. The longevity and projection on this one seems great. I saw a lot of people talking about how it was a little headache inducing for them. But for me, I wasn't like spraying it like I would normally spray it. I'm kind of a light sprayer, so I didn't really have that issue with myself. It didn't seem very overwhelming or headache inducing or anything like that. But the scent profile itself, it was just bad, man. It really was. Now, the next one is going to be Ajmal's Silver Shade. Now, this one, oddly enough, when it came out of the box, it's had like this kind of like factory gross smell to it. It was just the box though. It must have just been like residue from the factory or something like that out of the machinery. I'm not sure. I really don't know. It smells fine now, but the scent profile, that's what we're actually here for. And the scent profile, it's very like, I could see sort of how I was leaning towards that Silver Mountain water vibe, but it has like its own edgy take on it. Like edgy is like the first word that came to mind when I first smelled it. And it really, really does capture the vibe that it gives. It has like this more like early 2000s, yeah, like this Y2K designer fragrance vibe, but in a good way, right? And it gives more unisex vibes, and I think that is from, I believe, the florals in the middle of it. But it doesn't make it too feminine leaning or anything like that. And to me, it almost seems like a nighttime sort of take on Silver Mountain water. Now, it has that same sort of ozonic inkiness that Silver Mountain water has, but as it dries down, it becomes a little too like synthetic with the muskiness. Like it was like a synthetic muskiness. Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it when it comes to the dry down. And that really sort of threw me off. But on terms of like when you first apply it and the time after, a couple hours afterwards, it seemed pretty cool to me. It really did. Now, the next one is going to be Al Rahab's or Al Rehab's Silver. Now, this one gives like very, I could see that Silver Mountain water thing it's going for, but it's very like fresh and aquatic and maybe marine, but very, yeah, I guess aquatic and marine. And it, for me, it's very nostalgic for, this is going to be another sort of rambling, but for me, it reminds me of the first year when I was in the military, when I was living in the schoolhouse. or when I was going to the schoolhouse, the barracks, like the day rooms in the barracks after they had been cleaned, something like that. That's what it throws me back to. But it's this very clean, fresh, and that day room thing, I mean in like the best way possible. But this one is very aquatic and gives more like sort of poolside vibes, you know? On terms of Silver Mountain water in comparison, I think that nostalgia is throwing me off a bit, so I can't be too objective about it. I mean, of course, it's rough trying to be objective in a subjective niche, right? In something that's very, very relative to who you are. But I can see that Silver Mountain water thing, and I think it's a beautiful fragrance. But if you're looking for Silver Mountain water like one-to-one, this definitely is not doing that. It's giving more poolside vibes, but I'm personally enjoying it for myself. Now, number 3 on this list is going to be, oh goodness, Franck Olivier's, or Frank Olivier's, I believe it's Franck Olivier's Sun Java White. Now this one, it's I can see how it's Silver Mountain water sort of inspired, right? It's how it has those derivatives, but it gives even more poolside vibes than the last one, than the silver from Al Rahab. Like this one is very almost like sunscreen leaning in a little bit, in some ways, but in a good way, right? I mean, it's number 3 on this list. I really do enjoy it. Like I want it. It makes me want. It's been pretty cloudy here in Texas, and it makes me miss the sun even more than I have been missing it. Seriously, I want to put this on and go to the pool. Like that's what it makes me want to do. It even sort of the bottle sort of captures that sort of sunscreen vibe, in my opinion, and it's done a good job with being inspired from Silver Mountain water, like I said, but I think it's getting those Silver Mountain water derivatives from the greens and citruses inside of it, right? I'm not getting any green tea, and I don't believe there is green tea when I looked into it. And it's not too water. I mean, it's very fresh. I mean, maybe I think it is a little bit watery, but it's very fresh, very aquatic, but very, very summery, poolside vibes. Yeah, I think that's genuinely the best way to describe it. Less like mountaintop-esque like Silver Mountain water is, and more poolside vibes. That's what this gives. Now, number 2 on this list is going to seem a little suspect, I can't lie, for some reasons, but it's going to be Rasassi's Al Wassam Day. Now, this one, first thing when I sprayed it, I could immediately tell, like, okay, this is going for Silver Mountain water. It really is. The first 15 seconds, I don't know why, it seems like really those 10 to 15 seconds after spraying, it gives even more alcohol. Yeah, it gives a ton of alcohol right off the bat. I mean, of course, that's going to be any fragrance, but this one does it to a different degree. It really does. But after those first 15 seconds, then you start smelling it. The alcohol really settles down. But this one, the reason I said it might seem a little sus is because it has a rose, and that rose is very distinct. It's very piquant in this one, but it's done in a very light manner. And I mean, I know that light terminology sort of goes hand in hand when it comes to rose and florals, but this one does it in a different way, man. I mean, it does a rose like I've never smelled it before. It smells like very lightly placed, freshly picked pink rose. And it has that same like piercing ozonic accord, like inkiness that Silver Mountain water does. And it really does capture those vibes. It's like if Silver Mountain water replaced the green tea with a rose, like a beautiful, beautiful rose. And it's honestly so surprising. I've heard a lot of great things about Rasassi, and this one, that rose is just addictive to me, and it's not too feminine or anything like that. I think it's almost perfectly unisex. I think you could pull it off in a masculine way as a man wearing a rose like this. And I know there are those, rose fragrances that are for men, and I think you could really pull it off with this one. I really like it, and it's number 2 for me personally. And it really does, even though I'm saying that it has this rose and no green tea, it really does fit into that Silver Mountain water vibe. Now, finally, for number 1 on this list, it is going to be Armaf's Derby Clubhouse Blanche. Now, this one, first of all, I'm not factoring the bottles to these or anything like that in the way that I've rated them, but I love how it's called Derby Clubhouse, and it really does give those Derby vibes. I mean, it's very classy. This one, as soon as I sprayed it, I was like, this is the second one I got after Off Non Supremacy in Heaven, which was that absolute letdown, right? But this one, once I got this one and smelled it, I was like, thank the Lord, I'm not going insane. this one actually does smell like Silver Mountain water in a lot of ways. I mean, the first, I would say those first maybe 10 to 20 seconds, it has this undertone of sweetness to it. And it's not like this overwhelming sweet or anything like that. It's a more, you know, summery spring sort of sweet. But after those first 20 seconds, it starts to settle in and mix with the rest of the fragrance itself. And it really, really does a fantastic job of capturing Silver Mountain water, really. Now, to my knowledge, it does have that green tea in there as well, which helps it even more stand out as a Silver Mountain water sort of cologne. But it also has like this wateriness. Oh, also it has the ozonic inkiness that I always talk about, or that ozonic accord that I always talk about, but also has that piercing inkiness. And it's really done in a fresh, proper way. And it leans a bit more watery and aquatic overall, not the inkiness, but the scent profile overall has those more watery vibes, not in a metallic way and not in a super summery way, but just very watery and aquatic. And it's just so easygoing. Yeah, it definitely is my number one on this list. And it does have a tiny bit of sweetness on top, which I really love. I think it really helps with it. I think that wateriness is a bit more towards that dry down, which is interesting because the wateriness you would think would be a bit more upfront and on those top notes, but it really does dry down into that wateriness. And I really love this one, man. I really do. I think it's a bit underrated from what I've seen other people talk about it. And I know it's I think this one was the first one that Armaf came out with when it came to those Silver Mountain water clones. And then Sillage came out. I don't know, maybe the older Sillage, if there is an older one, like this has to be reformulated, man. It really does. And I'm sorry that I couldn't have been insightful on that because I couldn't find anything reputable about if it's been reformulated or not. But this one came out after Derby Clubhouse Blanche. But this one, I guess the OGs just do it the best, man. This one is truly fantastic in my opinion. I love it, especially for the past few days. I've been wearing this one and it really makes me think that I'm wearing Silver Mountain water, but just with a little bit of more wateriness and that tiny bit of sweetness at first as well. Now, I can't lie, the longevity and projection on this one is comparable to Silver Mountain water. Now, the biggest thing between these two is the fact that the price point on Derby Clubhouse Blanche is going to be way more easy to stomach than Silver Mountain water, right? Sadly for myself, I found that the lower on the totem pole these fragrances that I rated got, the better that they performed usually. Like the Supremacy in Heaven lasts a long time. The Sillage lasts a long time. The Silver Shade lasts quite a decent amount of time, but then it gets into that more like synthetic muskiness that I really just don't like after some hours of wearing it. But yeah, Derby Clubhouse Blanche is almost the same as Silver Mountain water for me personally so far. But Always Someday from Rasasi, this one does seem to last quite a bit more than Derby Clubhouse Blanche and Silver Mountain water. But at the sacrifice of having that rose note instead of the green tea, if that's not your jive. I also noticed that the number 3 spot, Sun Java White from Franck Olivier, has a lot more longevity and projection as well for me. So if you're looking for a more sunscreeny, like poolside vibe with Silver Mountain water, you could opt for this one. But like I said, overall, this one really does capture that Silver Mountain water vibe from my experience and subjectively for me. I really hope this was valuable for you guys. If you're new here, my name's Jackson. And as of right now, this channel is just completely dedicated to fragrance and just giving my most authentic opinion on fragrance and trying to be as genuine as possible. So if that in fragrance interests you, feel free to subscribe and like the video. And also if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave something in the comment section below. And also if you want to ask me anything a bit more in depth or anything different, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll link that in the description as well. But yeah, thank you again so much for the support. I really appreciate it. Have a good one, guys. God bless.